Sound check 1, 2, 3. Sound check 1, 2, 3.
Welcome to the Airport Subcommittee meeting of November 14th, 2024. As we have quorum present today for today's meeting, I would like to call this meeting of the Airport Subcommittee to order. A reminder that all electronic devices are to be switched to a non-audible function during committee meetings. In the chambers today, we have Councillor Wang, myself. Online, we have Councillor Pauls, Councillor Francis, and Councillor Beattie. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, are there any changes to the agenda?
Mr. Chair, there are no changes to the agenda. However, the presentation for item 8.1 will be uploaded to the agenda following today's meeting.
Thank you very much. May I please have a mover and a seconder to approve the agenda as presented? Councillor Wang and Councillor Beattie. Thank you. That vote is up. That vote carried. Declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? Not seeing any. May I please have a mover and a seconder to approve the previous minutes? Councillor Wang, Councillor Beattie. Is there any discussion on the minutes? We will have that electronic vote now. It's up.
Councillor Pauls. Thank you.
Councillor Spadafora just joined us. Thank you, co-chair. And we have a unanimous 6-0 vote on that. And we're going to go to staff presentations. There aren't any. 8.1, John C. Munro Hamilton International Airport Semi-Annual Update. We have Cole Horncastle, the Executive Managing Director from the Hamilton International Airport. He's here to provide committee with a presentation on this item. Welcome, Cole. We'll get you set up there, and you can begin whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Councillor. Awesome, thank you. Let's give this a tap. Okay, very good. Well, thank you, Councillor, for the introduction. First, I would like to start today by thanking all of the city representatives, the city, Tradeport, and Vantage reps who successfully negotiated our new historic 49-year lease that was announced a few months ago. So this is great news for both parties. We're really excited to get to implementing that, and ultimately allows Tradeport and Vantage to do what we do best, to continue to strategically invest in assets when the business need arise, not using any city capital to complete that, along with providing our known high customer service levels that keep our stakeholders and passengers choosing Hamilton. So really great news there, exciting, and looking forward to the next 49 years on that one. But today we'll focus on the old lease as we do our mid-year update. And what I'd like to do first is take a look at some historic statistics from 1996 to the end of our last lease, which would be September 13th of this year. So first off, just highlighting over that time period, 13 million passengers have traveled through the airport since Tradeport took ownership or started to operate the airport on behalf of the city. That's approximately 500,000 passengers a year. We've had some really high years. We've had 1 million passengers in 2003 and just about in 2019. And ultimately, it shows how the airport is a proven commodity to our passengers. Passengers love our hassle-free experience, our convenient community access, and really having 200 steps from the parking lot to the boarding lounge creates an atmosphere where passengers enjoy our facility. So we're really looking forward to continuing to grow our passenger operations. But just important is our cargo business. And the original vision for us to be that port of trade has truly come true. Over 12 billion kilograms of landed cargo MTO at the airport really solidifies the airport as one of the best cargo airports in Canada. We're talking third largest airport in the country, along with the largest overnight express cargo airport. So some really great accolades for us. What does that mean? Those two items tied together ultimately drive economic benefit for the city, which we've estimated to be $1.5 billion per year, along with jobs over 4,700 and the associated labor income, which is over $300 million per year. So just amazing impacts on the city, the investments that drive our stakeholders, the adjustments made by Tradeport that then allow our stakeholders to invest and create all those jobs really drives all that economic benefit. So some great news there and some great accomplishments over the time period. But moving into this year, so 2024, what we're seeing on we'll start on the passenger front here. Our team remains focused on working with our stakeholders to ensure those operating from the airport today are successful, along with continuing to have discussions with potential carriers that could operate from the airport. But what we're seeing in the industry is some significant headwinds for all Canadian airports, which I'll get into right now. First off, on the industry cost side of things, we're seeing costs that are really impacting how carriers operate. We're seeing increased labor costs, fuel costs, ground handling costs that are in some cases causing airlines to fold, which is what we just saw with Lynx earlier this year with their cessation of operations. We're also seeing a lot of labor action in the industry. Over the past 2 years, we've seen 2 potential strikes where carriers, WestJet and Air Canada, had to adjust flight schedules for a small period of time, along with the WestJet mechanic strike that occurred this July, where we had an impact of approximately 3 to 4 days across the industry. So significantly impacting Canadians across the country on their travel plans. We're also seeing fleet management and delivery issues. What we're seeing in the industry is delayed deliveries from Boeing to several of our customers that are impacting increased routes across Canada. We're also seeing the impacts of some weather events impact fleet. So we had the WestJet hail event in Calgary earlier this summer, which impacted approximately 17 aircraft of their fleet, or about 10% grounding that. And then we had as well Air Canada have unscheduled maintenance planned on their Pratt & Whitney engines, which has taken approximately 19 of their fleet, or 8 aircraft, out of operations. And lastly, we're seeing carrier consolidation. So what we're seeing across the industry is carriers electing to move and reduce traffic in order to meet government regulations that are in place today. We saw this recently with the windup of Swoop into WestJet in late last year, and more recently, and what we're seeing is even carriers such as Flair moving some of their operations from regional airports into bigger hubs on that. So that continues to be the trend and challenging headwinds across the Canadian aviation industries. It's not just Hamilton seeing it, it's across airports across the country. But with that is, I have total confidence in our team and what we do on a day-to-day basis to ensure our customers' success at the airport. And some of those successes recently includes some marketing campaigns that are targeted at those passengers for Play and Air Canada Landline, making sure that brand awareness is created for 2 products that are fairly new to the airport. We're also working with our industry partners to raise that awareness. So specifically, we had a tourism event for Play. We had a representative from their team, as well as Iceland Tourism come. They were here for about a week, where our team was able to introduce them to many tourism professionals across the industry, including Tourism Hamilton, and had a great event where they were able to receive feedback from their partners, as well as provide some feedback to try and drive additional performance on their load factors, which is doing fairly well today. And lastly, it's the power of the Vantage network. So we continue to work at attracting new carriers to the airport using our industry knowledge and as well as experience managing over 13 airports today across the industry. Opens up conversations that not all airports get. So really excited to continue those conversations. So with that is what are we offering this winter? So we have a really great schedule planned for our passengers, a lot of flexibility to where their destinations could be, a lot of connections as well. So approximately 14 weekly flights will be offered through a combination of WestJet, Play, and Sunwing, to a combination of domestic, international locations, along with our 6 daily trips offered through Landline and their luxury motor coach onto Toronto Pearson to connect into the Air Canada network of 140 airports strong. So really great offering this winter to see a lot of dots on the map where a passenger can get to. And then the focus, on what is an industry-first product in Canada, I think this is very important to highlight, is the landline service that began in Hamilton in May of this year. This is obviously a new service in Canada, which I'll tell you the industry is watching how it performs from our site. Overall, Air Canada has been very happy with the success to date. We're seeing growth on the passengers utilizing the service to almost 5,000 passengers utilizing in the month of August, which is a great stat to see that increase. Right now, the service is being offered groundside to groundside with the intent to go airside to airside in the near future, and we think that will be a game changer for the market as well. On the awareness side, Air Canada continues, along with us, to market this product, to create additional brand awareness of it. For a passenger, it's very easy to book. It's just like booking a flight, choosing Hamilton as your first destination on the website, and then ultimately choosing where you'd like to get to. So fairly straightforward on that, and we look forward to continuing to develop this product with Air Canada. Onto the cargo side of the business, and here is something that we're really proud of at the airport. Our competitive advantages in the cargo space continue to grow. First, from our 10,000-foot runway that we've got in place today to our now new Apron 2 that added over 125% capacity to our airfield. As Vantage and Tradeport, we are industry leaders in this sector, and what we are able to do is determine the need in advance of our stakeholders in order to invest in the assets that would ultimately mean future success for our tenants. Recently, we've been able to do this with that Apron 2 expansion of over $20 million investment and over $80 million invested in the airfield since 2019, and that's in a combination of expansion, modernization, and rehabilitation of these services to make sure that large aircraft can use the airport without restriction. We knew of our tenants' potential growth at the airport, and we were very excited to see scheduled 747 and 777 service begin this year at the airport. And to put that into context, we're the only one of two airports in this region that can actually accept scheduled 777 or 747 traffic, and one of approximately 10 in Canada that can do that. So for us to have that traffic, it's truly groundbreaking for us. We didn't think that traffic would come till about 3 to 5 years after the investments in Apron 2 were made. That happened in year 1 with the investments. So just a great success story there. For air cargo, we know minutes matter to our stakeholders, and minutes matter because they matter to us, because I want my package at my door in 24 hours after I order it on Amazon. So what that means is we have to make sure we have the facilities in place to allow for our cargo operators to have seamless operations throughout their network, and I'm happy to say we're doing that today with them. And overall for the year, highlighting, I think it's important to note that, we did see a bit of a dip head into from the pandemic high in 2022, but what we're going to see this winter will be just on par to that 2022 traffic. So I think it's important to see we're seeing those trends start to increase. And for this November, December, we're expecting approximately 1,400 landings from our cargo partners and over 160 million kilograms of landed cargo MTO. So some significant stats from our partners. A lot of that driven from Cargojet, who's partnered with also Prime Air to deliver, and DHL and UPS to deliver a majority of the service. I think pictures speak 1,000 words here, so giving you some great examples. So on the left, you'll see the 747 operated by Kalitta Air on behalf of DHL, and that's handled by Cargojet. On the top there, the yellow aircraft, that's the 777, again, operated by Kalitta on behalf of DHL and handled by Cargojet. And then your Prime Air fleet on the bottom right-hand side. Those Prime aircraft are owned by Amazon and are operated by Cargojet. What we're seeing is not only just an increase in the large traffic, we're seeing our partners grow their business today. So Prime Air, as an example, is increasing their flights from 2 to 3 during the peak season. UPS is increasing theirs from daily to adding additional 4 weekly flights on their schedule. And with Cargojet recently entering into a new deal with an e-commerce company out of Asia, we're seeing goods move through China into Hamilton, which is a great success story there. Now, and another industry leading for Hamilton, I think it's important to talk about our land development here. Since 2020, we've had 4 facilities developed at the airport, totaling over 400,000 feet squared of building space, over 33 acres being developed. That's an incredible trend for this airport with how much land is being developed. We've got our Northeast Airport development is 70% sold out after going live with that about September of last year. And ultimately, why this is important because this drives that aeronautical activity, this drives employment, this drives economic impact for the city of Hamilton. For us, land development is a big part of our business and one that we continue to pursue with many different partners. In the last 4 years, the 4 have been KF Aerospace increasing their hangar for their MRO and adding on the Mohawk College Aviation School on their west side. We've had DHL build their facility, their increased sort facility, and recently made changes to it to accommodate even more traffic. We had last year's announcement with Latitude Air Ambulance, who is expecting an occupancy of March 2025 in their new facility in the Northeast Airport development. And most recently, the Biddle Carson development, which is a 100,000 square foot facility, multi-use FBO, that will have several tenants located in it, including currently what will be a private flight operator and a helicopter MRO. Thank you to the councillors who were able to attend that groundbreaking ceremony as we continue to lead the industry in land development. To get that land development, it's important to have the assets in place for our carriers to use, for our partners to use, so that they have, like I said before, unrestricted airport access. I'm very proud of our team on both the planning side of the business to identify and go after those needs through capital plans and funding opportunities, as well as the delivery of these programs. It's not easy to deliver that much on the air side. It's actually very difficult to deliver a capital project on the air side. There's many regulations we have to follow to ensure everything goes to plan, but our team is able to do that seamlessly. I think, again, showing some of the work that's been completed in the last year, you can see the first picture there is our intersection of runway 0624 and taxiway Charlie. What doesn't look like much, you can see on the west and east side of the taxiway there, how the sides had to be increased in order to handle 777 and 747 traffic. So those are called taxiway fillets, and we've installed approximately 6 of those around the airport to ensure that unrestricted access. What a great picture of Apron 2 as well. That's a recent picture showing the breadth of that apron expansion to the north, seeing an aircraft on that, where we can handle 4 to 5 wide-body aircraft on that, all with de-icing capabilities. And then last, from a safety perspective, you can see what is our new our GSE service road that is parallel to Taxiway Delta, which eliminates a key safety risk that we had at the airport, where GSE equipment is what pulls tugs and packages from site to site. So this basically allows aircraft to go on the taxiway with the GSE going on a separate road beside, alleviating any potential conflicts between the two vehicles. Keeping on the flow of development here, when we had the master plan approved in October of 2023, there were recommendations that were attached with it for the city and Trayport and Vantage to continue to work on some subsequent plans that help support the master plan. And happy to say we're making great progress on all of these plans. To date, 4 of the 8 are complete. 1 is in progress, nearing completion. We actually just talked to city staff on that. And the remaining 3 are all budgeted for completion next year. So overall, making great progress on that. I just want to thank the city staff for helping us through that, through all of these plans, and as we work to continue to making our master plan better. Into our last section here, just on our community impacts. The first item I just want to talk about, it is an emerging item for us at the airport, but not one for the Canadian aviation system. NAV Canada is currently reviewing airports in terms of their approach procedures and departure procedures, with an ultimate goal of creating efficiencies because of new technology that would reduce the amount of track miles it takes to get to an airport. The positives of this is it has positive benefits on reducing fuel consumption to get to the airport, as well as reducing noise impacts around the community. So Hamilton's up next for this study, and NAV Canada has their recommendations in. The next steps for us is to consult with our community to determine, get some feedback on the proposed changes, see if there's any concerns, and work with the city on that, and then implementing those procedures for April to June of 2025. This is a NAV Canada-led process where the airport is supporting it, and will continue to do so. '24 has been a great year, and we've had a lot of successes when it comes to our team and the initiatives that we've taken on. Some of these initiatives include hosting Elevate Aviation for our 2nd consecutive year. This is a not-for-profit organization that is focused on promoting career opportunities for women in aviation. I got to attend that event, and it was spectacular. We were able to welcome a great group of students and had some amazing speakers, including from WestJet, our RCAF previous scholarship winners, and as well as some CBSA representatives. The students also got to experience the airport with a tour that they were able to really enjoy. We also were excited to participate in a couple of programs, one being Crime Stoppers, Crime Doesn't Fly Here program, along with an anti-trafficking program, Not in My City. Both of these programs bring awareness to reduce crime and have our team members trained to know how to spot potential illegal activities at the airport. The next phase of this is rolling it out to all of our stakeholders through a marketing campaign, which is happening in the next month. So really happy on that. We supported the Mount Hope Community Cleanup, participated in several other events along with the UPS plane pull, where both the city also had a team, and I think your team time beat our team time, so good stuff on that. And then lastly, we did install some EV chargers at the airport and are in the process of installing our first geothermal loop at the airport for our combined services building. So we're really seeing our net zero plan come in motion as we start to make investments. So with that, I want to conclude here by just stating that Trayport and Vantage are extremely proud of the partnership that we have with the City of Hamilton. Our partnership to date, as documented today, has had many successes, and we definitely look forward to delivering on more of those successes in the next 49 years. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Cole. Wonderful. So is there any discussion on the presentation? I see that Councillor Wing has some questions.
Do I? I absolutely do. Thank you, Cole, for your presentation. I have several questions. I wanted to go back to slide 12, which gives you the master plan update, and in particular, I'm interested in the radar relocation. It says that it's been completed for June 2024. Can you give us a little more information about that?
Yeah, definitely. So working with NAV Canada, the study was completed ultimately the overall objective of the study was to determine if the radar could be moved from its current site or not. So that was really what we were looking at. The conclusion came back, yes, it can be moved from the site. Asterisk stipulations. So what that means is NAV Canada is currently going through some internal things on their own end, looking at new technology for radars, as well as doing a primary radar assessment at the airport to determine what is actually needed, not only for Hamilton, but the whole Canadian aerospace industry. So though we've been given the direction that it can be moved, we're still in somewhat of a waiting game to understand what that means and where it could be moved to from that. So the positive news is yes, at some point it could be. We're continuing to work with NAV Canada for them to go through their RFP process to determine what technology they'll be looking to implement, because that would impact where you could put the radar in terms of on airport or off airport property, as well as working with their assessment for primary versus secondary radars.
Okay. Through you, Chair, is there an estimated time frame for something like that?
When it comes to the actual RFP, we're a bit at the mercy of NAV Canada's own processes. We do believe it's approximately about another year to 2 years as they work through that technology assessment. The primary radar assessment, we believe, will be approximately a year as it goes on today.
Okay, so how does that align with the long-term land needs assessment? Because that, if I recall from our tour, that radar area is a large swath of land that
Yes.
the airport could potentially expand into. So how does that time frame align with your long-term land needs?
Yeah, that's a great question. So that land parcel in particular, if there was no radar on that, would have 70 acres of new land available for airside development. So very significant in terms of what that could mean. And obviously people are calling to make Hamilton their home based on how many developments we've had in the last 4 years, and our phone continues to ring, I'll tell you that. But that being said, as part of the new lease, and I wasn't trying to get too much into that on this discussion, but if that development is impacted in timeline of occurring, we are looking at the South Airport lands as our first development option for new lands, which is approximately 150 acres of land that could be opened up for development. So in terms of how that works in our long-term planning, somewhat just of a shift in terms of timeline as to when it could occur. But the good news is we have the land to meet stakeholders' needs today.
Okay, excellent. My second question then is how it relates to that new GHG study that NAV Canada is engaging the airport with. You have a whole slide on it, and I know you did talk a little bit, but I wonder if you can unpack it a little bit more, because it seems, does this mean that we're looking at flight patterns? Like, how does that work with, say, noise contours? Because in addition to GHG emissions, we also have to think about it from a noise perspective. So I'm interested in understanding what this partnership is and what are all of those other sort of components as it relates to this particular project.
That's great, thanks. And I believe Michael Belanger is also on this call, who's our Senior Director of Operations for the Vantage Network. So if he needs to kick me under the table as I respond to this, I'm sure he will. When we're looking at the actual operations themselves from the airport, you're definitely right. It's looking at the approach procedure, so how a plane comes into the airport. When it basically, when you look at the, sorry, that just got me a second. But basically it's how it flies into the airport. And so looking at how to reduce that track miles into the airport was one of the overall goals of this, because like we said, it reduces fuel burn, reduces the amount of GHG emissions. But you're also right, and that changes the noise contour, the noise profile of the airport. And first things first is for us to make sure that the community would be, and the city is good with what is proposed by NAV Canada. There will be changes on where these aircraft fly and how high they fly at certain levels, and as well as how they approach the airport. And Michael, I don't know if you want to talk about the change in how that actual path into the airport would change.
Thanks, Cole, and good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, I think as Cole was describing it, the impetus for the change is based in technology. If you go back a few years, navigation was based on ground-based navigation aids, and those are being decommissioned over time, and this strategy of implementation has been underway since 2017. Hamilton, due to its proximity to Toronto Pearson, was last on the list. These procedures exist all throughout the country. I think there's over 100 in existence, but at the core of what it is trying to achieve, both from track mile reduction, efficiency, safety, and all those things, it has to be mindful of the impact on the communities, which is the requirements of the consultation process. So there are some planned consultations. The arrival procedures, and there's changes to the way that the aircraft will fly, but part of the information that needs to come from NAV Canada is what are the anticipated, as a resident and as a community member, what can I anticipate to change for me depending on where I live in the community spaces. There are some flight track changes over the ground, so it's just being mindful of where those are happening and making sure that those communities are appropriately consulted and engaged to inform the process. There's also, I don't know if it was on the slide, but any changes that are made, they are subject to a review process, which is 180 days after any implementation. So there is always opportunity to tweak, but it is arrival procedures into the airport based on which runway end. There are going to be some changes. No anticipated changes on departure paths, though. So I think that, again, as this process unfolds, it's really being mindful of how the affected communities are engaged and consulted in what information is made available. What does it look like before? What is it going to look like after? What's the impact on noise profile? That's some of the core information that we would expect to come from NAV Canada. Prior to joining the Vantage Group and working with the team in Hamilton, we went through, I worked at Toronto Pearson, and we went through the same process with NAV Canada to implement the change there. And it's really based in community consultation, which is a protocol that was established between the Canadian Airports Council and NAV Canada on when these changes are made. This is how to engage and consult. I'll pause there.
Thank you for that. Chair, I know my dings have gone off, but I have other questions.
Carry on.
Okay. So as follow-up then, I'm really interested in the community consultation aspect of this because we do have a significant amount of development that's happening in and around the airport. There are new developments that are slated to be coming online. Noise contours are going to be a big topic of conversation. How are you also connecting with, say, the Six Nations? Because I've also heard anecdotally that they've noticed an increase in traffic going over Six Nation land. And so is this sort of process where there will be changes on approach, how will they be able to participate in that community consultation? And how does our city of Hamilton help with that to get it out to residents?
I think that's a great question here. And, first off, I just want to provide a stat on our actual noise inquiries. So we've only received 29 noise inquiries to date from for the airport. So really, noise complaints are not a big part of what's driven from the airport. And, quite impressive when you think of the actual traffic that flows through the airport. We're talking over 28,000 movements in a given year. When it comes to the consultation process itself, there'll be a combination of online as well as in-person consultation. And Councillor Wayne, you're totally right. It's not just the city of Hamilton. It's actually surrounding communities as well that will be targeting Six Nations, Brantford, and other surrounding areas that could potentially be impacted by this. So we'll be reaching out to other communities as well and having an in-person session sometime in January and February which has NAV Canada representatives on site to walk through what is actually occurring, what they would expect to see with the changes, and what the future should look like.
Okay, and so just seeing from your slide, it's a December 2024 where that consultation is supposed to be happening. So I guess this is our sort of first look at that, and then I'll have questions for staff after your presentation. My last question is not actually stated in your presentation, but because we also have a follow-up report later on in this agenda on our marketing and joint marketing. So perhaps, I wonder if you can give us a sense of your perspective or your expectation on what type of marketing you're really looking at. I know passenger traffic is a big thing. Cargo is already really big. So where is your expectation on what marketing looks like?
Yeah, so there's really two aspects to that program that we will deliver for 2024 and 2025. The first aspect of that is actually on the marketing side, and I did touch on a couple of those company-specific things that we did complete with both Play and Landline throughout the summer, really dedicated marketing to increase that brand awareness throughout our community, throughout the region, but also be able to provide Play with that feedback and specific examples of how to grow their brand here. Specifically, they're new to this market as well and need an understanding of who to connect with in the tourism world in this region. And our team of Colleen and Dina here did a great job of connecting them with multiple operators in the area, as well as hosting an event that really drove a lot of awareness for them. So really that's the awareness side of thing, and that can go from, you're talking different types of actual like radio promotions or online promotions compared to those actual physical type of events. So that's a range there that we've historically delivered. The next piece to that is actually working with our carriers at the airport to ensure that their business is secure at the airport. And that was the part of the fixed fee promotion as part of that marketing request later on today. And that's, ultimately we've got a strong, a mighty crew at the airport of WestJet, Sunwing, and Play, and then Landline operating the luxury motor coaches, and is really ensuring their success at the airport.
Okay, thank you. Those are all my questions. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Wang. I don't see anyone else with questions. So may I please have a mover and a seconder to receive the presentation? Councillor Wang, Councillor Spatafora.
Awesome. Thanks.
Thank you, Cole. The vote is up. That vote carried 6-0. 10, discussion items. 2024-2025, 10.1, John C. Munro Hamilton International Airport, City of Hamilton Joint Marketing Initiatives, PED 24-22-1, citywide. May I?
Sorry, before we move on, I wonder if I could ask staff, because we have just received the presentation. I wanted to follow up on some of my questions to Cole, but to staff, if that was okay.
Do we not put the report on the floor and then you ask questions?
That's for 10.1. I'm talking about the presentation we just received. It was just because I wanted to ask staff about several questions that I had for Cole, but ultimately it's for the NAV Canada.
Understood.
Yeah, so.
Carry on.
Through you, Chair, I wonder if I can ask staff about the last presentation, specifically when it spoke to the NavCan report, and there was a December 2025 community consultation around that report. What are we doing on our end to ensure that residents are kept informed and have the opportunity to participate in that study?
Through the chair, I don't believe there has been any consultation that has been initiated to date, Councillor. This is a NavCan-driven process, and so the city is really following NavCan's lead in this regard, and so they haven't started any consultation with regards to that process yet. So at this point, staff have not really done anything on the consultation.
Thank you. Through you, Chair, then, what is our normal process? Because with having NavCan engaging with the airport and doing this kind of work, and especially I think about the amount of development that is going up around the airport. I think about the carriage homes that are right across the street. Any of those sort of flight paths are absolutely going to impact community that is already being invested there. So I think that they would have a vested interest in at least being informed about how NavCan is doing this study. So what is our normal process, or if we have a process at all?
So through the chair, I'm not sure there is a normal process here because this is an exercise that probably hasn't been done in terms of this particular exercise, is not one that probably hasn't been done, and I'll look to Cole or Kathy, but I suspect it hasn't been done in probably decades. And so in that regard, it is, for all intents and purposes, a new process. And so we're somewhat at the mercy of NavCan as they reach out both to Tradeport as well as ourselves in terms of what the next steps are. We will then engage our comms team and our community consultation groups to work something out in terms of how the city participates in that process and hopefully provides some additional strength to that process in terms of how we engage our community.
So Chair, does staff need a formal motion to formally ask that they work collaboratively with NavCan on this? Or is this something that they've heard loud and clear and that this is part of the process?
I'll let staff answer that, but that was going to be my suggestion. If you want to give direction, you're always welcome to do that through a motion.
So through the chair, happy to take that direction, but I think certainly in terms of our day-to-day work planning, if you like, for the coming months and year, it's already on our radar, and so we don't need a motion, but more than happy to also receive that direction from council if that's the will.
You and I can take that offline.
Yeah, so I feel like that's a little bit of a bug in their ear kind of idea.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you,
Thank you,
Chair.
Councillor Wang. Are we safe to proceed now? Okay, thank you. So I guess we'll go back to discussion items, 2024 John C. Munro Hamilton International Airport, City of Hamilton Joint Marketing Initiatives, citywide. May I please have a mover and seconder to put the report on the floor? Councillor Spatafora, Councillor Wang, thank you. And it's on the floor. Is there any discussion? Councillor Wang, I see your name up there. I'm not sure if it's from before or a new one. Okay, carry on.
Thank you. As we have just heard from Cole's presentation, his expectation was looking at it from several perspectives, which is looking at it from increasing the awareness campaign around the current airlines and the current clients that are at the airport. And then there was also the fixed price guarantee program. I wonder if we can just do a quick update or just a very fast summation of what the fixed price guarantee program is.
Cole or Nora?
Through the chair, I think Cole would be in the best position to answer that question.
Okay. And Cole, there should be a button there to hit your.
Awesome. Can you hear me? Good. Awesome. Yeah, so the fixed fee program is something very similar to that was already approved by this council back during the pandemic. So it was really the same program that was put in place then, and ultimately just looking with our carriers to make sure that from a cost perspective that they're set up to succeed from the airport.
Through you, Chair, I'm trying to understand what is in this report, it says the recommendation is for the city to contribute an allocated funding of up to $650,000 for the two initiatives of this expenditure matching. So I'm still trying to understand what is the fixed price guarantee program.
So is there a cost structure to that 650? Is there things that we have to put forward if you put forward?
Overall, and through the chair, first off, just when we look at this program, there's a stipulated use of what the airport can use those funds for, because the actual fund for the self came from the rent that was paid by the airport to the city of Hamilton. So there's definitely uses that are allowable and as per the lease. This is one of them where, looking at the cost basis of what it takes for a carrier to operate at our airport, looking around the competitive nature of the industry, ultimately making sure that we retain our customer base.
So this is kind of like the gate fee, right? Or so then that way any carrier that wants to come to the airport has to pay a certain fee to be there. But what we're doing with these marketing dollars is to offset that gate fee to make it a lot more attractive.
Yeah, I think a good example to use, Councillor Wang, is for example, there's many fees that I shouldn't say many. There's an airport tariff for, depending on what an aircraft uses, they would have to pay for what they use at the airport. One of them, an example you just raised there, somewhat similar, is our terminal fee. And as part of attracting carriers right now, we've capped that fee in our tariff to be a certain amount in order to keep and retain the traffic that we have at the airport today.
Okay, thank you. My second follow-up question around that is, we already have 6 carriers on the passenger side for the winter program. What is our capacity to attract more on the passenger side?
Through the chair. So we have, just to correct you on that, Councillor, so we'll have 4 operators on the passenger side through this winter, 3 operating aircraft being Sunwing, WestJet, and Play, and then the 4th being Landline connecting from the airport into Toronto Pearson for that onto the 140 destinations that we talked about. When it comes to attracting new carriers at the airport, I think first off, it's important to note all of those headwinds in the industry, and the efforts put in by our team definitely are looking to attempt to get that carrier traffic back to levels that we know the airport can handle and what people want and love from Hamilton International. But ultimately, the headwinds are also factors that are playing into carriers' decisions around Canada at this moment. So like I said, we're not the only airport in Canada feeling these types of pressures at the moment. But with that, as we continue to put our efforts forth, use the power of the Vantage brand to get meetings that other carriers or other airports can't get, and look to drive that business development forward.
Okay. Thank you. So is there any other marketing initiative to help you with that, making our Hamilton Airport more attractive as an investment location? Is there something that we're missing here?
I think based on our success previously, I would say we've done a great job at the airport in attracting that talent or those carriers previously. And I will just reference back to those headwinds that the industry is facing right now, and specifically regional airports are feeling a lot of pain across Canada when it comes to the traffic being put into the airport.
Thank you. Those are all my questions.
I'm not seeing any other questions on the go. So what I'll do is I'll read the recommendation, and then we will require an electronic vote. The recommendation says that the General Manager of Planning and Economic Development Department or designate be authorized and directed to contribute up to $650,000 from the airport capital reserve number 108043 towards the city's contribution for joint City of Hamilton International Airport marketing initiatives. We'll require an electronic vote. Vote is up. And that is carried 6-0. Private and confidential. From May 9th, 2024, may I please have a mover and a seconder to approve the closed session minutes of May 9th, 2024? Councillor Spadafora, Councillor Wang will have an electronic vote. Please indicate your vote now. It's up. Vote carried. And now everyone's favorite time. May I have a motion to adjourn? Councillor Pauls and Councillor Wang, thank you. The vote is up. The vote carried, and we are adjourned. 6-0 was the total. Thank you.